answers of an alien from Andromeda, Video 158, November, 2018. Hi my friends, sorry for the delay. In the brief moments that I communicated with SAB1 could not really take the time to be able to calmly answer the questions. Many jobs running simultaneously in your solar system have taken a lot of time from everyone involved. As your amateur astronomers can realize, in addition to the events that are happening in all the planets of the system, Venus in particular, is in tests in the new orbit and in the full development of new atmosphere, and next to that specialized teams in fauna and flora have already begun the works of population of the areas that will begin to generate the system of renewable nature of the new context of the planet. Much oceanic water is already being transferred there to accelerate the surface cooling process. During this next year a lot will have to be explained by your scientific community to your society in general, because they will not be able to hide these changes much longer. On your planet, as you can see, your elites are increasingly losing control over countries and being exposed in their idiosyncrasies. The threats of wars and conflicts are gradually diminishing by CG pressure and action, regulating atmospheric access to nuclear weapons, and because your governments already have a sense of the problems that the planet will face in these natural changes that are underway. The reactions that many have observed in your atmosphere and in the oceans for the first time, will become increasingly bizarre until this adaptive cycle of the planet is finalized. The delay provided by the CG of these events was due to the inclusion of Taos in the system, and the viability of Venus to new colonies in the future. Now the planet Earth is by its very nature, just as Mars is in the process of stabilizing its new reality. Questions. Dear Mithy, I am a 5.5 years old girl, born in late January of 2013, sending this message using help from my parents. According to what you have said before I was even born, I and about 700 million children, born after December 21, 2012 have frequency of level 1 or higher. Most of us are raised by parents having frequency of level 0 plus or even 0 minus. How are we supposed to change the status quo on this? Any advice or guideline to us, the new children of the new Earth, will be admired. Nikoleki, what I can advise is that they use a lot of understanding towards the less perceptive ones, that is, if your relatives are of a level of cerebral activation inferior to yours, try to use this in your favor, trying to show your truths without knocking with them. Sometimes the mission will not be easy or it may even be unproductive, but the important thing is that you keep your awareness beyond the social details to which you are subjected in your family context. With intelligence and due humility you will surely achieve your goals. Mithy, you mentioned a new society will be governed by you for you, so it appears we have information that may be of the utmost importance. What can you share and just how important is this type of information to comprehend and follow through on? See Shiner, the trend of social development should be to make the state only a resource manager, because the state is and always will be a bad manager of companies. The information you mentioned denotes the awareness that is spreading in societies, and the healthier and more transparent the system that governs the country's resources, the more the society in question can be fair in the division of resources, so that everyone has a level that provides the means necessary for individual development without distinction. The importance of choosing leaders to lead the state is paramount so that the system is not misrepresented by personal ideologies. It must be a whole person and with the intellectual capacity compatible with the function that it proposes to perform. I will not go into the merits of what has been said by this or that person as the person who quoted, because they're also regional trends, but in general indicates that the exits are well known. The important thing is the pressure of societies to decency is implemented at all levels in the administration of public resources. Mithy, is there any possibility that our planet unites, overthrows current social structure and celebrates Ascension Day before the breaking point of the planet? Or will the planet changes be the dominant cause for the collapse of our current social structure? Jose, as I told Shiner, the breaking point depends on you alone. When nations begin to get rid of the shackles imposed by your elites, the healthy union of nations will gradually blend the differences and make the planet more cohesive. there will have been expected Ascension Day for the planet Earth. As things are happening, there is a good chance that open CG contacts will happen next year. Mithy, what was the mission and race of the Large Triangle craft spotted in Phoenix, Arizona, on March 13, 1997? Why was the field of invisibility not working? What was the true size of the craft? Mikhail, as I have said before, many races use the triangular shape on secondary ships. There are triangular ships from 50 meters long a few kilometers, depends on the use. Camelopardalus spacecraft has circulated around here as well as some other humanoid races, and as the dimensions vary greatly I cannot pinpoint the size of these units sighted. At present there has been some indulgence in maintaining invisibility, because in certain areas there may be aircraft or bird shocks, but given the proximity of a direct contact with the planet, some races purposely expose their ships to show that they are here and there cause some pressure on the authorities to disclose facts relevant to their fellow citizens. Mithy, you earlier explained how a piece of a neutron star 2 meters in diameter would leave destruction behind if it passed through a solar system, but according to the same physical and mathematical theories that you have mentioned, it would expand explosively and start a beta-decaying process into protons and electrons. What would be the physical phenomenon or force that keeps the neutron star piece from expanding and beta-decaying, or were you understood wrong? Captain Snuggle, when an atom loses its internal space the electrons happen to orbit very close to the nucleus of protons and neutrons. This reduces drastically the physical size of the atom, but the weight of the matter remains the same. The high density of these atoms creates a very strong force of gravity of the set that keeps them cohesive. Once the atom has its reduced spaces it does not decay naturally, that is, it does not degrade. Only the interaction of passing through a black hole could turn the neutron star into energy again. Mithy, can coal be used as the raw material to create a custom new element? Wizorad, coal in the activated state is almost entirely carbon, and carbon is a base material for a number of products. Charcoal can have its molecule modified by quantum programming, but then forming a new element for your periodic table would not be possible because a carbon atom will always be a basic element for the composition of many other materials, from coal to diamond. Mithy, what is the center of every galaxy? Is it a supergiant star or giant black hole? Hubble telescope detected a black hole and nuclear giant star in center of galaxy. Thank you. Fauzi, it varies from galaxy to galaxy. The central element that holds the cosmic and planetary matter around it only needs to be the source of a great gravitational force, be it a superstar or a black hole. The most common are aggregates orbiting black holes by their great gravitational force in any sense, sucking or expelling matter between the adjunctive universal planes. Dear Mithy, why is Red Square Nebula so perfectly symmetrical? Is this based on the same concept which you have told us about KIC 8,462,852 or something else? Thank you. No, Nikhil, there are no encapsulated nebulae. In fact, it is not symmetrical as the picture shows. This must be partly product of the lenses or sensors used, caused by the great distance and the high luminosity. Sometimes symmetries happen due to rare factors, but this case shown would not be one of them. Mithy, where is the landing site of the InSight probe which supposedly landed on Mars? Yurish, it looks like you really believe any probe was dropped from your planet to Mars lately. Indeed, in decades prior to the agreements signed with reptilians, probes were sent that orbited Mars by filming and analyzing the planet, but after the agreement they were no longer necessary because the hosts reached Mars in a few minutes with their ships of service. These exploratory units, when appropriate, are simply put in some chosen place by technical personnel of the colony to send data to the scientific community here, that innocently backs up all this staging. Do not feel embarrassed about it, but know that the technology used by their humanoid community, even though it does not receive technological transfer from its reptilian hosts, is at least 60 years ahead of what you have available today. Technologies and inventions developed on your own planet, that were deliberately omitted from the public, and today are being widely used there. Mithy, on September 10, 2018 we mark 8 Earth years since your first meeting with Captain Bill. We learned a lot from you, but what did you learn about us as a professional behavioral scientist? Moreover, to what time period equals these 8 years in your time measurement? Mithy, thank you for deciding to talk to Captain Bill on the coast that night, for all the knowledge you gave us, and for your unlimited patience, because some of us, including me, had their ups and downs during all these years. Our friend Toter, you have been following our conversations for quite some time. CB had until now the necessary patience to participate in my study of contact with this colony, which as I already mentioned, this was the most heterogeneous colony I have ever studied. What I observe as a scientist is that you have developed a far greater adaptability than any other zero-level colony that I have had the opportunity to study. The power of adaptation will lead this colony to become a much more active and participant member of the community when it is finally integrated, and indeed the terrains may be a reference for new, more heterogeneous developments, taking into account the final quality in the formation of Level 1 colonies more adaptable, starting from the patterns observed here. Mithy, how come that tribes scattered throughout our planet have remained undeveloped technologically, and other progressive societies are very advanced in comparison to them? Is it because some space communities gave bigger and more intensive guidance to their seeded colonies here on Earth? If so, how come that other alien communities didn't guide their descendants in the similar way? Savo, isolated tribes originated from ancient experiments that exported Neanderthals among others, to planets of similar age, simply for experimental development. Between 160,000 and 20,000 years ago there was no control over genetic experiments that were done here by numerous races, which led to the spread of fugitive or nomadic wilding groups in the forests, and thus remained intentionally isolated from the rest of societies. Hi, Mithy. On the internet there was a leak of information, as well as video materials were published. It says that in 1970, the project was created Red Sun, which in 1973 sent astronauts to Mars. The flight was one way. If this information is correct, please tell us about it. Yes, Maxid, in that period a type of space station was placed in orbit of Mars and the occupants were able to descend to the planet in a probe, but they did not return. They only recorded and sent analytical information and after a few days were silenced. This was a mission similar to moon incursions. After exposure to the radiation from the Van Allen fields they knew there would be no turning back. During the 60s and 70s there were 3 one-way expeditions to Mars from NASA. In the following decade the agreement with the reptilian representatives was signed. Mithy, as a welcome neighbor present, do you have any information that you consider as important to be shared but previously with galactic community regulations you were unable to share and now you can? Abraham, as events occur, I can analyze with more tranquility in reporting, but we have to observe the community Galactica demands as a whole, in relation to information that could trigger negative effects in this final development of the colony. But for sure I will keep them as knowledgeable as possible. Mithy, many scientists have tried to explain the creation of the Marianas Trench but unfortunately, they have not been able to do it because research devices and the submarines fail at such depth. Could you please tell us how the Marianas Trench was originated, and what kind of life lives there? Baru, the abyssal zone of the Marianas Trenches was a deformation of tectonic plates where one did not overlap the other, but both diverted downwards and sank into the liquid magma forming a huge scar. Thousands of life forms live there with the absence of natural light using only bioluminescence, including some huge seals, large octopuses and squids that live in large caves with pockets of air resulting from evaporation of water, caused by volcanic lava heat in the lower layers. There are 3 encapsulated cities installed in the deep region maintained by the Arcturians, where many races make experiments, and other scientific tourism. Mithy, I have lived in California for almost 40 years and have never experienced forest fires of this magnitude. Is this fire season anomalous or due to circumstances a bit more calculated and sinister? Andrew, nothing can be said accurately, but there are groups who are trying to pull the population of large areas off the west coast of that territory with the alleged intent of saving lives, as they believe the region will sink into millions of deaths. I cannot confirm these facts, but there is a possibility that it is not just natural events in one form or another. Dear Mithy, can you enlighten us to if the United States of America's population will diminish by 100 million by 2025 according to these projections and forecast? Is this likely to happen? Japa, these projections, albeit alarming, are based on the fact that the U.S. by 2025 must have undergone major territorial transformations. Tectonic changes and volcanism are planned for that territory, but this has not yet been publicly disclosed because your scientific community is permanently tied to the government. This, in addition to forcing part of the population north or south, will cause an almost complete stop of the economy. They are natural phenomena that are bound to happen naturally during this present tectonic rearrangement. Friends, your governments are well aware of the events that are occurring and may occur in the near future and may announce more openly the extraterrestrial activities, releasing more information, but probably with the tendency to implant the fear towards us, even knowing that we are only working for the good of this colony. Be alert to the pronouncements of your rulers. Be well all of you.